Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lucky Loaders 15, where I'll be giving you 5 of my best bets for tomorrow's race in action. Before we get stuck into those, I'll just quickly recap on how my selections have ran today. At the current time of recording, this is just after 4 o'clock. We've had 3 tips run so far, and we've had a bit of a mixed bag. It all started though with a winner for us, with Aristocratic Lady at Yarmouth. She won very nicely in the end for Simon and Ed Crisford, with Andrea Zaney doing the steering. The race kind of fell apart really. Thriller in Manila for Holly Doyle went out early, set some fast sectional times, and then in the end the race just collapsed, and our selection, Aristocratic Lady, was just able to pick off the pace, and yeah, it was really easy in the end and comfortable victory. There was slight drift as well to 11-4, so if you managed to get the 11-4 or best odds guaranteed, you would have been in for a nice little surprise there. I thought the horse would have gone off a lot shorter myself, but very comfortable victory in the end, and it'd be interesting to see what the handicapper does with that horse and where Connections race that filly next. So yeah, it was a nice performance there. We then went to our nap, Otago at Yarmouth. Completely blew the start and then was always up against it, especially over 5 furlongs. If you're ever going to give away ground at the start, it's pretty much a death wish really. You're never going to normally make up ground in a 5 furlong race unless there's a complete pace collapse and there's a pace burnout, you know, and you're staying on really strongly. He did stay on and beat a couple of horses, but yeah, he had to be a lot more alert from the gates, and that was disappointing there. I'm not sure really what to do with him now. Did they give him another crack at 5? Did they maybe step him up to 6? Maybe stepping him up to 6 again won't be a bad move, and the handicap as well might drop him a couple of pounds. But I definitely think he will be winning a race soon, so maybe not one to completely disregard in the future. Then Country and Western was our long shot for Selma Grage and Robert Edery. Unfortunately, the horse couldn't defy market expectation. There was a bit of money for it in the final few minutes before the off. Went off, I think, around about 6-1, or it was around about 6-1. Not long before post time, and we put it up at 8-1, and I did see the market support coming for it, but yeah, I just think could never really get into the race, and the race never really panned out in its favour. It was held up towards the rear mid division, but maybe I just think maybe the jockeying experience didn't help Selma there. Selma is a good jockey. I think she's a good up-and-coming jockey, but she probably got found out in a race of that nature through a lack of experience, because to be honest with you, she didn't really ask it too much for an effort until the home straight, and even then she gave him quite a bit of a gentle time. Maybe she was just keeping the horse nice and just focused on the job, you know, without asking him for too much of an effort. But yeah, maybe if a jockey that had a bit more experience aboard had taken the reins like that, he might have been fighting out for a place. I don't think he would have won, but yeah, that was slightly disappointing there from Country and Western, but I'm sure he'll have his day in the sun again soon. But that's how those 3 tips have run, and at the current time of recording, we've still got 1 to go at Killarney and Kempton this evening. So if you're watching this, you might as well go and check it out and see how they did. But you can check out also as well the other video as well for what tips they were. But anyway, enough of me talking about how our selections have run today. We'll get into the business end of things for tomorrow. And like I said, we've got 5 tips, and all these current prices are at the current time of recording just after 4 o'clock. So these are some of the early prices that are currently available, but they obviously might collapse due to, as markets sometimes do, collapse quite quickly as soon as the prices are made available. But these are the current prices at the time of recording. Now we're going to go to Hamilton for the 2 o'clock as our first tip, with a horse called George Burns Morrow for Tony Hamilton and Richard Fahey. Now this horse is currently 11-2 at the time of recording, and I'm going to recommend the dirty each way bet. Now this horse is really well handicapped, and if you actually go back through his form, he actually won the race 2 years ago when he actually won it off a £14 higher mark. He was rated 100 when he won the Scottish Stewards Cup back in 2018, but he's kind of had a bit of a hard time since then, and he's dropped down the weights now to a mark of 86. But his run at Pontefract was a lot more like it last time. He stayed on really strongly, and he finished second to Summergand, who was a really unlucky loser at Royal Ascot in the Wokingham. So he was running against a decent horse last time out, suggesting that he could have a bit of a sparkle back in his life, you know, to go and win a race of this nature. And I don't think it's the strongest renewal I've ever seen for this race. I actually had the winner last year of this race. You might remember if you've been following me for donkey's years. And you might remember I used to do a bit of work with a YouTube channel called The Punters Page, and I actually tipped up Air Raid at 14-1, who won this race last year. I don't think he'll win tomorrow because he won't have the conditions. It's going to be good to soft at worst case scenario. And George Byrne is pretty versatile on all ground, to be honest with you. But I just think he's coming back to his old self now, you know. And off a mark of 86, I would be disappointed if he couldn't be competitive here. And I think at 11-2, that's definitely worth a dirty each way bet there. So that's my first tip there. We then go to my next best, which runs in the 2.15 at Uttoxeter, my only tip for the jumps tomorrow, and I'm going to take a chance here with my next best with Peter the Mayo man. Currently back it, you can, at 4-1 for Harry and Dan Skelton. Now the Skeltons haven't really got going yet. We've had jump racing now for a couple of weeks, and you normally expect them to clean up these kind of summer jump races, but they've had only a couple of winners, which is probably a little bit below par by their high standards, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time before they get some more winners on the board, and Uttoxeter is normally a track that's very good to them. Now this horse, Peter the Mayo man, he's been around the houses with a few different stables. He used to be with Neil Mulholland, he went to Paul Nicholls, but he's arguably very well handicapped. And if you go back through some of his form, he was rated in the 140s. He's going to be running off a mark tomorrow of 118. And he was well punted off the boards last time at Seville, like defeat was out of the equation. And he probably, to be honest, just went into a warm race, and the trip probably stretched him. He has won over 2.5 miles before, but I think he's more effective at 2, and that's why he's going to be dropping back down in trip tomorrow, probably because he just didn't stay out that 2.5 miles. The form's already taken a bit of a boost in because Rhythm is a Dancer, who was a winning nap for us yesterday, went on to win at Seville, so the form's looking all right. It was quite a warm race, and off a mark of 118, I'd be disappointed if he couldn't go really close in this. Again, the ground should be in his favour, on the good side, so no problems there whatsoever. And I think he's really well handicapped now to get another win under his belt. He's getting on a little bit now. He's double figures. I think he's 10 or 11, so he is getting on a bit in jumps terms. But he should still have a race of this nature in him. And I think it's dangerous to underestimate the Skeltons at this stage of the season, even though they've had a bit of a quiet start. But I think tomorrow they've got a few nice chances that could possibly see him in the winner's circle, and I think this is one of them. And at 4-1, I think that represents a good bit of value. I could see the money coming for him again. I could see him maybe going off 5-2, 9-4, something like that. I think he's got a cracking chance, and that's why he's going to be my next best. We then go back to Hamilton for a listed race where we're going to go my nap tomorrow with a horse called Subjectivist for Joe Fannin and Mark Johnston. Mark Johnston's yard and flying form often has plenty of winners at Hamilton, and he often does very well in July. It's normally one of the best months to follow him. Now this horse has done all right so far this season, finished third in a handicap at Royal Ascot, where the form's got a little bit of substance to it. It's produced a few winners. He then went on to Haydock last time, where he had to give lumps of weight away to a progressive horse of William Haggis, and I don't think that was a bad run, even though he didn't win. But I think in the context of this race tomorrow, he could still have some improvement to come. And looking at his pedigree, he's got a classy pedigree. He's actually very closely related to last year's St. Leger second, Sir Ron Priestley, and he was a very progressive horse for Mark Johnston, went through the handicaps into Group Company. And Subjectivist at 6-4, I think that's a fair bet in this small field tomorrow. There's only 5 runners, but I don't think there's too many dangers. I know Tritonic might be quite popular for some people with Holly Doyle and Alan King. I actually believe it's Holly Doyle's only ride on the card there tomorrow too, but I just think Subjectivist, he's got a lot more in his corner, which suggests that he's up to winning a race of this nature, and I think he's the one they've all got to beat. So for me at 6-4, I think he's got a solid chance tomorrow, and that's why he's going to be my nap. We then go to Sandown, where I've got 2 tips for the evening. My 4th tip is going to run in the 7 o'clock with a horse called Dusty Dream for Kieran Fallon, claiming 3, and William Haggis is the trainer of this horse. Now this horse is currently 10-1 with bookmakers at the moment, and I'm going to recommend an each way bet. You can currently get 5 places, and I think this horse has got a good chance tomorrow, making his handicap debut off a mark of 71 for Her Majesty the Queen. Now last time we saw this horse, he made his seasonal reappearance at Haydock when he finished in 7th place over 1.2 miles, and he probably didn't quite stay the trip. But to be fair, looking at the race, the form has worked out really well, because the winner of that race finished in a decent seventh place in a decent handicap at Royal Ascot and was slightly unlucky. That was win o'clock. He went on to win at Leicester after that Royal Ascot run. You've had the second in that race finishing second place since. You've had the third place and the fourth place horse come out and placed in some nice contests since, and the fifth place horse has won, suggesting that the race probably was quite a good standard for the grade. And even though there are some obviously unexposed types in this race tomorrow, there's a lot of newly likely racehorses making their handicap debuts that could improve. I think Dusty Dream is in that camp, and off a mark of 71 with some strong form lines, he's got a good chance, I think. And they're going to be adding the cheek pieces, which I think will help as well. He's a horse that likes to be prominent, and he's drawn in stall 1, and if he can get away well tomorrow, be up there with the pace, I think he's got a good chance of using his stamina to see off some of these. And I think he's got untapped potential. He's got a decent pedigree as well. He's related to some of the Queen's best horses in the last few years, with the likes of Call to Mind, Learn by Heart. So you're looking at some nice horses in the horse's pedigree. And I just think at 10 to 1 tomorrow, this is a good each way bet, and that's why he's going to be one of my extra tips tomorrow. We then go to Sandown with the 8 o'clock with my final tip of the day, which is going to be my long shot with War Brigade for Richard Kingscote and Ian Williams. You can currently back this at 14 to 1, and I'm going to recommend an each way bet with 4 places on offer. Now this horse, he hasn't won on the flat for a couple of years now. I believe the last time he won on the flat, he won an amateur race at Newbury, but he's going to be racing off his lowest ever turf mark tomorrow of 64. And I think he can be definitely a big player in this field. He's a horse that likes to race prominently, and I thought he ran all right at Haydock last time when he finished in 5th place behind Solo Saxophone. Now, I was against Solo Saxophone that day, but then I put him up last week when he won at York, and he absolutely destroyed the field. I think he was a horse that did a lot wrong in that race at Haydock, but he then went on and took another step forward, and he's got lots of untapped potential on the flat for me on the turf. But yeah, going back to War Brigade, he finished second behind a horse of Graham McPherson's called High Wales, and that High Wales tomorrow is going to be having a £4, is going to have to give £4 extra compared to when they met last time at Haydock. So there's going to be a change around at the weights. And I think with a quick round tomorrow on the good side, definitely War Brigade's got a good chance. And off a mark of 64, I'd be disappointed if he couldn't defy a mark of this to not at least finish in the frame. And I think he's got solid credentials tomorrow for Ian Williams. The stable haven't been in flying form, but I think he's got a good chance of going close. And I think he's worth taking a small punt with small stakes each way. So that's why he's going to be my long shot. So they're my 5 best bets for tomorrow. Just quickly recap on them. In the 2 o'clock at Hamilton, we go with George Byrne at 11 to 2, the Dirty each way. My next best comes in the 2:15 at Uttoxeter with Peter the Mayo Man, 4 to 1, win only bet. My nap runs in the 3 o'clock at Hamilton with Subjectivist at 6 to 4, win only bet. Dusty Dream at Sandown in the 7 o'clock, 10 to 1 each way with 5 places. And then my long shot runs in the 8 o'clock at Sandown, 14 to 1 each way with 4 places. So they're the 5 best bets for tomorrow. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button for more videos on my YouTube channel. You can also follow me on Twitter, where my handle is at LuckyLoader15. And you can also as well check out my website, which is www.chrisloaderracing.co.uk for a full portfolio of my work. But that's all I got to say. Hopefully we can have some winners tomorrow. Please gamble responsibly, and we'll be seeing you soon.